All right. Well, thank you everybody for coming. My name is Gretchen Houghton, and I am the Vice President of Business Development and Marketing for Nazareth Home. And just really happy to see you all here. I know it's a dreary day, but I'm glad that you'll come listen and learn a little bit more just about Parkinson's and a little bit about the Parkinson's Institute that we have here in town. So before I get started, just wanted to remind everybody to please turn off your cell phones. Can everybody hear me okay? Okay, make sure we turn things up. Just to kind of give you a little quick commercial, Nazareth Home has 2 campuses. We have one here in the Highlands, obviously. We also have one off Payne Street, or on Payne Street off Frankfurt Avenue in the Clifton area. So something exciting about our Clifton campus is we just opened an independent living area. We have 12 apartments, and tomorrow we are having an open house. If you're interested in coming, it's from 4 to 6. We have information on the table back there. Something else we have coming up is we are going to be doing conversations with the caregivers. It's going to be hosted by Louisville Health, the Peace Hospital here next door, and that's going to be on June the 5th. So make sure you pick up something, a little flyer when you leave about that. It's going to be a really good presentation just about caring for the caregiver, how to be creative, and kind of relieving some stress and things like that. So, without further ado, I would like to please welcome Eric Richardson. He is the President and CEO of the National Parkinson's Institute. So, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you guys for coming out. The brightest and warmest day to be out today. I did see the sun peek out for a second, about an hour ago, so we did more than that. But yeah, so just a little bit about myself, a little bit about my background before we get started. I have been the President and CEO of the National Parkinson's Institute, which is a local nonprofit, contrary to the name of the National Parkinson's Institute. We are a local nonprofit here in Louisville. All of the funds that we raise stay right here in Louisville. We provide 100% free services to Parkinson's disease and other neurological diseases such as MS, Huntington's, essential tremors, things like that. But we were founded and headquartered here in 2020, right in the midst of the pandemic, because I was actually a board member at one of the old support centers that went into another healthcare organization. We wanted to go in there with other than better, but then all the services stopped, just like the world did during COVID. And so the services couldn't stop. People were declining fast. I was getting calls left and right. We can do something. And so that's where the National Parkinson's Institute came out of. And we've had tremendous growth in the past 5 years. We've heard that what to do in 5 years, what it usually takes a nonprofit manager to do in 15, 20 years. We are on the verge of building a 125,000 square foot, all under one home headquarters. So you would have to leave that headquarters for any service. You get all of your medical care, your exercise, your therapies, your support groups, everything like that. Yes, so a little bit about my background. I have a bachelor's and a master's from the University of Louisville. Bachelor's in exercise science and sports medicine. I have a master's in exercise physiology. And one thing I just recently started telling people again, I never really told too many people because I didn't practice physical therapy as you would think that you practice physical therapy. Oh, yeah, for the feedback, it's not, yeah, that's why I didn't want to get too close to it.
Thank you.
And so with but I'm a graduate right across the street of Bellarmine University as well, and a physical therapy, doctorate of physical therapy program. So everything I do is preventative, it's physical therapy based, but it's also fitness based. And so that's what we're here to talk about today. And so the big thing that I've been a big proponent in, but then also that we are a big proponent in at the National Parkinson's Institute is exercise, and intense exercise. So everything I'm going to speak at today, a lot of it was founded for Parkinson's disease, but it's not just related to just Parkinson's disease, because this intense exercise is obviously good for everyone and other neurological disorders, and whether you have nothing wrong with you or not, because we'll But the reason that the intense exercise portion, especially when it comes to Parkinson's, is because studies came out roughly 15, 20 years ago that intense exercise was the only thing proven to slow the progression of the disease. And so once that came about, I said, okay, well, what do they need to do intensity? Because it was very first studied with bicycles, and then it was studied with boxing. And so our most popular program, which is a worldwide program, is called Rock Steady Boxing. And so we have that 4 times a week down River Road, and then we have a couple at Sonic Homes that are open to the public, and a few others around town. But they're the most popular. And a lot of people think at first when you hear Rock Steady Boxing, it's like, oh, I don't want to go box. But it's not necessarily just a boxing class. And so half the class that we do is gloved up boxing, half the class is ungloved and working on your core, your balance, your hand-eye coordination, your hand-foot coordination, occupational therapy, stop motor skills. And so we call it the circus, because you might walk into a class and you'll see people spinning rings on their arms while going over hurdles, or just recently a new toy for the group, which is it literally is a toy, 3 plus, on Amazon. But it's to get the hand-eye coordination, but then also your reaction time, grabbing these foam darts as they fall. And so, and everybody, this is our last week of the month on that, and everybody has improved at least tenfold on that, where they wouldn't be able to get one of them, and now they have people getting all 6. And so that's been great. And so the reason that intense exercise works, or really actually what is intense exercise? A lot of people are always like, well, what's intense? I can't go that hard. Intensity is defined of what's intense to you, of how where your heart rate gets to about 80-85% output, and everyone's different. So what's intense to you might not be intense to you, and what's intense to you might not be intense to you. And so intensity is individualized, okay? And then the breakdown of intense exercise, of why does this work? Why does this slow the progression of the disease? Well, one is neuroplasticity, okay? So neuroplasticity is the ability of the brain to form and reorganize synaptic connections, okay? And so you just have pathways that are always going from one side to the next. And anybody that knows Parkinson's disease knows that it's usually lack of dopamine in the receptors of going back and forth. And so, just a show of hands, if you don't mind. Who in here, anybody here diagnosed with Parkinson's disease at all? So no, okay. So then you guys will learn a little bit about some of the Parkinson's disease, but this is fitting for everyone. And so I'm glad to see that no one in here is diagnosed with Parkinson's disease. Any other neurological condition, you don't have to say what, anybody in here diagnosed with a neurological condition, whether it's MS, essential tremors, Huntington, anything like that? No? Okay. No? Yeah? Okay. I was going to say, you don't have to share which one, but it's good to know in the class. And so, physical activity, it facilitates the neuroplasticity of certain brain structures for that cognitive function. So everything that we work on is always cognitive. Because, usually people see, I'll go back to Parkinson's disease. When you see a Parkinson's patient, most people think that the first thing that we should think of, what do you think of when you think of Parkinson's disease?
Tremors.
Yes, tremors. That's probably the first thing that people think of. But about half of people with Parkinson's disease, they're not a tremor at all. And so a lot of people don't realize that. Most people think when you go think Parkinson's disease as well, you're thinking, I'm not living. And who else?
Michael
J. Fox. Those are the two. And, granted they have Parkinson's disease, but they are not the face of Parkinson's disease. If you look at Michael J. Fox, he has a lot of dyskinesia, uncontrolled body movements. And that's mainly most likely due to over-medication, because he was diagnosed so young. And everybody with Parkinson's disease is on that same medication. It's called carbidopa. The brand name is usually cinnamon. And with that, if you take too much, that causes that dyskinesia, is what it's called. And so those uncontrolled body movements, he's been on that for so many years. He was diagnosed extremely young. And then you look at my lady, and he was a boxer. And so, yes, you don't know how much was due to, hits to the head in boxing, and how much was due to the Parkinson's. But nobody actually dies of Parkinson's disease. That's another thing too. A lot of people think that you die from Parkinson's disease. And Parkinson's disease isn't a disease that kills you. It's something, usually a lot of times, it might be a symptom of Parkinson's disease. So, balance. And you get off balance, that might cause a fall. Hit your head, that can cause, traumatic brain injury or anything like that. But you normally do not die from Parkinson's disease. So the value of intense exercise. So this is where it's going to relate to everybody here. So intense is the word that's used with intention. Okay? So that's where the intensity part comes into. And so you really want to concentrate on what you are doing, no matter what exercise it is, whether it's running, whether it's biking, whether you want to concentrate on that intention, be intent on that exercise. So whether it's punching, you want to make sure that you're punching with intensity, pedaling with intensity. So really concentrating on what you're doing in that activity at that time. And then, as I said before, intensity is an individual scale. Defining intense, as I said before, is raising your heart rate that makes you breathe heavily. So 80-85% of your heart rate. A lot of people now have Apple Watches or smart watches, but there are also so many good heart rate monitors. So when you're starting a new activity, your intensity is going to be different the longer that you do it. Because it's not going to take long for you to get up to an 80-85% heart rate if you have done nothing and you go straight into something. But then, after a month, you're probably going to have to double your output to get to that same 80-85%. And it's also according to how often that you do it. Usually if you only have time for 1 day a week, that's great. But you would like to at least do some type of intense activity 2 to 3 times a week, at least. And so, as I said before, several studies have been proven that intense exercise, including Parkinson's disease and multiple sclerosis, but especially with Parkinson's disease, helps slow that progression of the disease. And obviously, with this intense exercise, it's not curing any disease or ailment that you have, but it's to change the course of the progression of the disease. And it doesn't even have to be progression of the disease. It could be anything. It could be arthritis. It could be muscle stiffness. It could be everything. You do have a reversal of, say, if you're a smoker. You quit smoking, you start intense exercise. Your lungs do heal. Heart, you strengthen your heart. So you're not necessarily curing things, but you can reverse and go backwards in a good way. And then the benefits also, besides just your, the physical part of it, your memory, your cognitive function, your balance, emotional and mental wellness, motor skills, fine motor skills. All of that is included. And so everybody's heard of what's going to be coming up next. Move it or lose it. Use it or lose it. Same thing. And so, which is, it's absolutely true. The saying, body in motion stays in motion, body at rest stays at rest. And I think we kind of know that. The more that you sit, the more that you're sedentary, the stiffer you get, the more out of breath you get by just going up a flight of stairs. So the more activity that you do, obviously, you're going to be able to do it easier. But a lot of people don't realize hand-eye coordination. It is imperative for people to work on hand-eye coordination, hand-foot coordination, core. That's the very first thing that I try to tell people. If you're getting into any type of exercise program, or just any fitness program, or just wanting to just better your health, work on your core first, because everything is through your core. So whether it's your posture, you strengthen your core is also not just your stomach. A lot of people think that's just your abdomen. Your core is all the way around. So a lot of times when people have low back pain, it's usually not even your back at all. Really what that comes from, very tight hamstrings, which are connected to your glute, connected to your low back. So when your hamstrings And so then that's when that's why when you stand up, and then that's when it's, oh, well, because now you're lengthening, you're trying to lengthen something that's tight. And so it's usually, and it's one of the least worked muscles in the body, because we're not doing this all day. We're not just bending over all day. And that's usually the way to work the hamstrings. So it's either doing a deadlift, which is very simple to explain, very hard for people to get down, because it's just not a natural movement. It's not a natural motion. Because usually if you say, oh, okay, you want to do a deadlift and have these weights just go down in front of your leg, you want to do this, and right out your back. But really, you should just be pushing hips and butt back, and just keeping your back flat and your back straight, as you can see as I go down, as opposed to here. As soon as you round that back out, it takes it off the hamstrings. But there are other machines, whether you go to a fitness center or a gym or anything like that. You've got you can curl your legs down, you can lay down and curl your legs up. But one of the biggest things, a lot of times, people are like, ooh, I don't like doing hamstrings, or it's hard for me to keep my back straight. Then when I tell people stretching routine, it is extremely important to get into a stretching routine and stay in a stretching routine. Preferably daily. If you can get into a daily routine, whether it's when you start your day, or even throughout the day, midday, evening, and stretching those hamstrings. Really stretching everything, but especially the hamstrings, because if you can stretch those and lengthen those and just keep a constant blood flow, then that would help alleviate a lot of back pain that a lot of people have, the low back pain. Now, if you obviously have had surgeries or rods or anything in there, that's a little different story. But if you just have this everyday aching back, or from standing up, it's really tight, that's most likely hamstrings. And so, some of the stretches, grabbing onto something, crossing your feet, and going down just one at a time. As I say, if anybody wants to try it, you can. But it doesn't take long, especially to fill a hamstring stretch. Sitting down on the floor. A lot of people don't like getting down on the floor. But if you do, make sure that you're next to something that helps lift yourself up. But do toe touch there, or having your feet apart and doing toe touch. Even laying back on the ground, or even in a chair. I'll show you a simple one that you can just even start with. Okay? So one that you can just start with is here, point your toe out and pull it up. And then you pull that toe back. And that's the one I usually say that when you're pointing it out, you'll feel it. And then when you pull your toe back, you're going to smile. That's the one that shows the teeth on. And you point your toe back up and pull it some more. But it doesn't take much for you to feel that, especially when you pull the toe back. You'll feel it all through here, or sometimes the back of the knee. But you want to keep that leg straight. And so that, getting into a regular routine, now just doing that once or twice a week, that's not going to really help that much. It might help at that point in time, but the key to that is regular. So if you can't, or it's a little slow getting into a workout regimen, if anything else, make sure you start into a stretching routine. In addition, I want to go back into to some of the hand-eye coordination. So it can be something as simple as having a tennis ball or a little bouncy ball, and just bouncing that and try to catch it on the way up, or let it bounce and then try to catch it on the way down. It's something as simple as that. I mean, it sounds simple, but if you haven't done that in a long time, you're going to miss that thing in person several times. But that's why you work on it. Hand-foot coordination. The same thing. It can just be getting a little 40 ball or soccer ball or something like that. You literally just get it across the room. Think it's something simple. It's not anything that's going to really help. No, it does. Because when you think that it's so simple and you try it out at first, you're like, oh, okay, I'm not missing it, or I'm not getting it straight. But just like anything, practice makes perfect. And then balance. That's a big one. And so, along with the core strengthening, and even with the hand-eye coordination, hand-foot coordination, all of those correlate into better balance, especially the core. So as I was saying, to begin, was core strength. That's what I start with at first. So core, all the way around. I usually start people, whether it's in class, or whether I'm working one-on-one, or whether I'm just, bikes, the first thing to do is to start strengthening your core. Because once you can do that, then your balance automatically improves, your posture automatically improves, even your ability to just reach for things high up improves. Everything is through your core. And so you can start with something as simple as in a chair or on a couch. And so some of these, a lot of people know about, but have probably forgot about. And some of these you've probably done before, maybe not since high school or grade school. Leaning in the chair, bringing your knees up, going out towards the floor, or pedaling a bike in the chair, going up and over. One where you can really feel it all the way around the core in your back is having your feet really close to the floor, off the floor. Your arms back, your head back, and just holding it there. And try to hold it for as long as you can. And that when you really want to lean in your chair and have that out. And then just looking up at the ceiling and your arms back. You try to hold that for up to 30 seconds. It's hard to do at first. The good thing about core is it doesn't take long for it to strengthen. You can double your core strength according to how weak it is. After 2 weeks, doing it every other day. Just doing just those simple exercises. But if you have the ability to get on the floor and do a plank, anybody in here not know what a plank is? I think everybody knows what a plank is by now, right? Yeah. And so whether it's doing it on your toes and elbows, a regular plank, doing it off your knees and elbows, or even doing it off the wall. You don't necessarily have to do it on the floor. You can do it in a chair, just make sure, or a couch, something that's stable that's not going to move. Put your hands there and your feet back, just as if you would do it on the floor, and you try to work your way up. A plank is one of the hardest exercises for people to begin whenever they're very first starting to strengthen their core. And then that first month of doing planks regularly, doing a 30-second core, you almost cannot make it 30 seconds when you're first starting out. In 30 seconds becomes so easy. It's like, I can breeze through this. And it's crazy how fast the core strengthens. But you're using your core on a daily basis. And a lot of people don't realize how much you're using your core. Even in just a general fitness workout. So if you're squatting, sitting down, standing up out of a chair, in the deadlifts, all that, you're working your core a tremendous amount. And so, you don't necessarily have to work it always directly. Anytime you're doing any type of exercise, whether it's your core, lifting weights, machines, if your muscle is sore, you don't work it out until it's not sore again. A lot of people think, it's really sore, I have to work it out. No, you don't want to do that, because that can take you in reverse. It can make you a little bit weaker. You need to have the time for that muscle to recover. And when you start out, if you haven't done anything in a long time, just a little bit is going to make you sore. But that soreness will get shorter and shorter and shorter, and then eventually usually goes away. And usually not sore. A lot of people think, I need to be sore for it to be a good workout. That is not true. And so a lot of people think that, whenever I'm not sore anymore, I'm good, or I'm not getting anything out of this. Not true. Don't believe that. And if anybody tells you that, whether it's a trainer or a physical therapist, not true. Cardiovascular. Everybody knows cardiovascular, getting that heart rate up, and heavy breathing. Usually that's the fastest one that improves, probably even more so than core strength. Usually if you start cardiovascular, whether it's just doing things in place, the boxing program, or even just walking that gets your heart rate up and you breathing heavy, cardiovascular will improve more than 50% in the first month. Sometimes it doubles in capacity. If you're on a regular schedule or regular basis, cardiovascular system will improve very, very quick, which is good because that's really probably the most important thing you want to improve, your heart. And as we age, our body and minds change. We must change the way that we train. I learned that myself. Once you get into the 40s, it's not like I was in my early 30s, and it wasn't like when I was in the mid-20s. And it's hard. You always think that you can do everything that you've always been able to do. I used to be able to do this. I'm going to go back and do that, or I can work my way there. No. You have to really humble yourself, and your intensity changes as you age, and that you don't want to also do something where you're just constantly injuring yourself. And so, learn that hard with yourself. A little bit about who we are as the National Parkinson Institute. So, if anybody knows anybody with Parkinson's disease, I don't know if anybody here doesn't have it, but Parkinson's disease or any other neurological conditions. Like I said, we are a nonprofit locally here in Louisville. Everything that we do is 100% free. So we have exercise classes, we have support groups, we have educational seminars, we have dance class every Monday. We have yoga, meditation. We have pickleball once a week, but we're actually increasing services, kind of on a monthly basis. We are currently in the works, as I said, for a 125 or 127,000 square foot headquarters. And so we are hopefully getting some federal funding for that, but we know how that is right now. So we have that put in, and hopefully we'll know in the next few months, but because the need is now. The good thing about Parkinson's disease, if there is ever a good thing, is that there's probably more progression in the advancements of Parkinson's disease. They're knowing a little bit more about it in the past 2 years, 2.5 years, than there has been probably in the past 30. March 2 years ago, they found the first biomarker for Parkinson's disease, which is tremendous because when you can find at least one biomarker, you can start going in that direction to either find new medications, find cures, find a way to possibly stop it in its tracks. If anybody is familiar with multiple sclerosis, MS, you guys, in that, I used to, I started before I got into Parkinson's, I started with MS. So I had an ex-girlfriend of mine's mother that had MS, and I saw how quick it took her life. It was very quick. It used to be for some people, it was a death sentence. And I've seen 20 years ago from now the advancements in MS. And they literally now have medication advancements that can stop it in its tracks. I have a friend that was diagnosed in her 20s, and she hasn't had any progression from then. Amazing advancements. Once they can find a biomarker with something, it can really take off. Just last June, so almost exactly 1 year ago, the president had signed in, Congress had passed last year, the National Planning and Parkinson's Act, which was modeled from exactly like the Alzheimer's bill. And in that has helped advancements with Alzheimer's tremendously. So we are hoping the same goes for Parkinson's disease. And so my name is in the running to hopefully be on this board committee that reports back to Congress each year. And so that's supposed to be set by the end of this year, but we will see. Timelines are all kind of messed up right now. And there's a little bit of information. We also have some pamphlets, so if anybody's interested in some pamphlets. But I'd like to leave enough time for questions, because a lot of people usually have a lot of questions when it comes to exercise or even Parkinson's or who we are or what we do. So I'd like to take a little bit of time right now to field some questions. Yes?
You discussed 2 to 3 times a week for intense exercise, but
At least.
what type of a duration are you looking at?
Yeah, that's going to change, according to your fitness level where you start. Because usually where you start, you might only get 20, 30 minutes of intense exercise.